Hello everybody, welcome back to Loaf's Guide to Deadside, and if you have been following my guides up to this point and are doing well, chances are that you're actually running out of storage space at the trader. So today I'm going to walk you through the process of building a base so that you can triple your storage space. If you've already built a base in Deadside and are watching for some advanced tips, I'm going to be covering those too. I'll have the videos split up into chapters so you can skip through the stuff you already know. So, first things first, you're going to need some basic supplies. You will need an axe, hammer, saw, and nails, which can all either be found in industrial areas or purchased at the trader for pretty cheap. Depending on the size of the base you want to build, you will need more nails. I would say get at least 200 to 300 nails at least. You probably won't use all of them, but they're cheap and you will always have them if you ever want to expand. You'll also need at least one code lock, but I recommend getting 2 so you can have a more secure base. I'll talk more about that in a bit. You can buy them from traders for 100k, but that's pretty expensive. The better option is to look around industrial areas for crafting supplies so you can just make your own. And while you're doing that, you're also going to be looking out for sheet metal. You'll need 3 sheet metal for each storage box in your base, and since you can have up to 3 boxes total, you only need to collect 9 pieces of sheet metal. If you want, you can also collect burlap to make sandbags, but if you're just making your base for storage like I do, there really isn't any reason to, other than just decoration. Once you have at least an axe, saw, hammer, and some nails, you can begin the next step, which is finding a spot for your base. You'll need to make a base claim, which requires 4 planks and 8 nails, but make sure you have extra nails in case you need to make more. I'll explain why in a minute. But one of the most important parts of making a useful base is its location. The best spots to put your base are the spots that are close to high loot areas that you enjoy going, and also close to a wandering trader spawn. This way you can fill your base full of gear and stuff to sell from the high loot area, and then sell the gear to the wandering trader for double the normal sell price. How useful your base is all depends on your ability to use it, and putting it in an area you frequently go to while being close to a trader is a good way to easily make lots of money and get lots of gear and storage. It's also worth mentioning that the building process is a lot easier and safer if you have a tree that you can get wood from in your claim, so that you can put walls around it and not have to worry about getting shot. Once you build your base, it's extremely hard to remove it without losing lots of items, so make sure where you put it is where you want to keep it. There are also some limitations on where you can put your base. It can't be close to roads, structures, or other bases, so it's possible you find a spot you like on the map, and you show up to the area expecting to be able to put down your claim, but there is someone else's base already there, or it's an area that is just restricted by the game. Chances are you won't be able to put your base where you want, so have multiple base locations in mind before going out to place down your claim. There are also some bugs related to placing down base claims. Sometimes they just disappear when you place it down. I think this is some bug where the game tells you that you can place it in a spot where you actually can't. This is usually because of other base claims that interfere with it. If this bug happens to you, try a few spots near where your first claim disappeared, and if it keeps happening, you're just going to have to find another location. This is by far the most frustrating step in the process. Everything gets a lot easier after you manage to get your claim down. So, at this point, if you have your claim down in a spot you're happy with, now you can begin constructing your base. Every base item is constructed with the same basic materials: wood logs and nails. You're going to need to turn those logs into planks, which you can then turn into plywood and beams using the hammer and saw I told you to get earlier. But I'm not going to cover any of the crafting recipes, it would just take way too long, and it's simple enough that I'm sure you can figure out what you need on your own. As long as you have enough nails, an axe, hammer, and saw, you can make any core base item that you need. So start crafting your foundation. This can either be your ceiling or your floor. After that you will need walls, a ceiling, and a door. It's pretty simple really, just very time consuming. There are many different shapes and sizes of base out there, and you might be wondering which design you need. Well, there isn't base rating in this game, or at least not yet, so in theory a huge base with 800 different structures functions exactly the same as a tiny base with a single foundation, 1 walls, and a ceiling. But having a tiny base still has some security concerns, and that's why this section of the video is called base rating, despite there not being any actual base rating in the game. There are several ways a player can potentially enter your base. The first and most simple one is door camping. If you played other survival games, you probably already expected this, but a player could wait by your base for you to come unlock your door and shoot you once it's open, taking whatever they feel like from inside your crates or your body. Doing this in most private servers with decent administration will probably get you banned, But just because it's illegal doesn't mean some players won't do it anyways, and unless you have video evidence of somebody door camping you, the admin team can't usually do anything about it. So for this reason, it's always smart to have an airlock inside your base, just in case you get door camped. In case you don't understand what I mean, an airlock in Deadside is a second door that you would have to unlock before getting into your base crates. That way if somebody shoots you after you open your front door, the second door will still be locked and closed. That is, if you remember to close it on your way out. Another way a player could potentially get into your base crates is through exploits. Now, I don't know how to perform any of these exploits or really understand how they work. Even if I did, I sure as hell would not make that public information anyways, but I do know there are things players can do to get into your base when they otherwise should not be able to. I have had my base crates completely looted 3 times now, and I have friends who play this game that also have experienced the same thing multiple times. I'm not exactly sure how they get inside, but I'm pretty confident it has to do with them somehow glitching their player model through walls and ceilings to access your base crates from the outside. Having a base full of loot being exploited away from you is probably the worst possible thing that can happen to you in this game. So it's really worth putting in the extra time to building a more secure base, just so the chances of this happening is a lot less. So the design that I personally use is one foundation with no openings with 4 small square foundations up top. With this design, an exploiter can't physically get their player next to a ceiling or wall to try to glitch through, that is, as long as you built it in a location where there isn't anything to jump onto your roof from. If you're going to have windows next to your base crates, make sure there is nothing a player can potentially climb on or jump on to get on top of that window, because players can actually stand on top of the window, if they do it right, and loot the items that are inside. Another great way to prevent your base from being glitched into is to have an outer fence. If you place these outer fences completely around your base, as long as there isn't a way a player can jump over the fence, it's going to be very hard for somebody to get in. You will need another code lock though so that you can lock your outer gate. Now like I said earlier, none of these designs will 100% prevent your base being exploited into. There might be more exploits discovered in the future with new updates that make these designs irrelevant. But for now, you might as well put more time into making sure your base crates are off the ground and unreachable, because the less loot these people are able to get, the better. And having your base raided is the last thing that you want to happen. Now there really isn't any major stuff to base building left to cover, but there are some mechanics about the structures in the game that aren't very clear when you first look at them. For example, the openings in the big foundations are only for big wall gates. Nothing else can actually be placed in these openings. There are no large walls in the game, at least not yet, and the fence walls can't be placed in these openings either. The main use for these openings, as far as I can tell, is for making really large open rooms that are made from connected foundations with openings. Another thing about big foundations is that you cannot place walls inside of them, so if you're planning to make a smaller room inside of your big foundation, you are not able to. You can crouch jump over low walls, so don't use these to protect any sections of your base that you don't want potential enemy players to get inside. You can't completely cover a ceiling with small ceilings, it will always have an open center, and you cannot build overhangs longer than one small ceiling. Stairs have to have some sort of foundation from the bottom to mount on, so if you want a set of stairs leading to your front door, you will have to make another foundation to put them on. The watchtowers have to be placed on the ground. None of the supporting beams can be placed on foundations. Your base claim allows you to build 4 stories up from where the base claim is placed, but you could have a taller base by placing it on the side of a hill. But technically that's just a lower base. You can have up to 3 small crates. You could place these in your base for more storage, but you can actually place these anywhere in the world. Some servers don't allow you to place them in some areas though, so keep that in mind. Placing your base claim too close to a helicopter crash, cargo drop, or wandering trader will cause it to no longer spawn in that spot. Deconstructing any foundation requires you to deconstruct any wall that touches it, as well as any structure on top of it. So be careful when you place them because you might have to expose parts of your base if you want to delete it. Grenades can go through windows, including grenades from launchers. Sandbags sometimes disappear when you attempt to place it in spots where its model clips through the ground or something. You can only place 20 fences, towers, and sandbags in total, so having 10 fences means you can only place 10 sandbags. And bases don't render in sometimes past 300 meters, while players still will, so it's pretty often you will see a floating player inside of their base. If you have any other questions, go ahead and leave it down below. And if you're looking for a server where door camping and base camping is dealt with by active admins, come play on the WasteLand. It's where I play almost every day. There's a link in the description for the WasteLand Discord link where you can get notified about events, bounties, and other things we do on the server like factions and stuff. If you learned something from this guide, subscribe to the channel so you can see my next one. That's all I got for now. See ya.